Number 10. Goose Rider. Coming from the same animal-themed alternate universe as Spider-Ham, little is known about this variant of Ghost Rider other than the fact that he is a goose. This may not seem very powerful to some of you, but anyone who has ever dealt with a Canada goose knows how truly dangerous, despicable, and vengeful they can be. The idea of one of these awful creatures also being granted the powers of Ghost Rider is a truly terrifying thing to contemplate, and worth at least the number 10 spot on this list. Number 9. Ghost Rider 2099. The Ghost Rider of the year 2099 is actually the only entry on this list that doesn't get their powers from any demonic source. Zero Cochrane is instead a young computer hacker who was murdered by a rival street gang while out on a hacking mission. In an origin story not dissimilar to Chucky from Child's Play, Zero managed to download his mind into the internet before dying. He was greeted by a group of digital beings who sent him back in a robot body. Realizing that the robo body resembled the original Ghost Rider, Zero decided to take on the identity despite not technically being a Ghost Rider. Zero's power grid in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe actually lists his abilities as being much higher than many of the other Ghost Riders on this list, but as they are not a true Ghost Rider, I have decided to rank him pretty low. Number 8. Ghost Spider. A Peter Parker from an alternate dimension who travels the multiverse with the help of his Uncle Ben, stealing the powers of other Spider-Men in order to better defend his universe. The Amazing Spider, as he called himself, eventually kidnapped the Spider-Man of Earth 616 and brought him to his universe. When Spidey learned of his misguided alternate's plan, he managed to convince him that what he was doing was wrong. Although evil Uncle Ben tried to kill the mainstream Spider-Man, the Spider gave up his life to save the Peter of Earth 616. The Spider was brought back to life by his universe's Doctor Strange and turned into Ghost Spider. We have yet to see this version of Ghost Rider in action, but the mere idea of Spider-Man being granted the demonic powers of the Ghost Rider in addition to his spider powers sounds like a total powerhouse. Unfortunately, the lack of follow-up leaves him in the number 8 slot. Number 7. Danny Ketch. While visiting Houdini's grave, Danny Ketch and his sister were caught in the crossfire of a gang war. While hiding with his injured sister, Danny came across a motorbike with a glowing gas cap. The gas cap turned out to be a mystical amulet, which transformed him into Ghost Rider. In addition to the usual Ghost Rider powers, Danny is also able to transform into a spirit of corruption, giving him an armored appearance and giving him the ability to fight the spirits of vengeance. While he is a beloved incarnation of the character, there are other versions who are more powerful, even if they aren't as interesting of a character, which is why Danny is relatively low on the ranking. Number 6. Caleb. A Civil War era black man, Caleb was able to purchase his and his family's freedom and set up a life for himself on a farm. Aided by his friend Travis, a former Confederate soldier who Caleb had saved the life of, he was able to set up a pretty good life for himself. Unfortunately, a gang led by a man named George Regan killed Caleb and his family in a racist attack. Caleb was brought back as a Ghost Rider and teamed up with Travis to hunt down the men who had destroyed his family and get his revenge. Because of the personal nature of his mission, Caleb has a determination that makes him truly terrifying to behold. He has all of the standard Ghost Rider powers, such as the flaming skull and the penance stare, but he has also displayed powers that none of the other Ghost Riders have shown to be capable of. These include the power to travel between dimensions with the use of his Hellfire, and the ability to possess and control the corpses of his victims. Number 5. Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze is a motorcycle stuntman who, in an effort to save his surrogate father, Crash Simpson, from dying of cancer, made a deal with the demon Mephisto. Mephisto promised to cure Crash's cancer in exchange for Johnny's service. Unfortunately, Crash perished in a stunt gone wrong almost immediately afterwards, and Johnny became the Ghost Rider. Although he has tried to rid himself of this curse many times over the years, Johnny has used his powers to punish evildoers and do a lot of good, despite the evil inside wrestling for control. He is the most well-known Ghost Rider, possessing all of the iconic powers that come with the title. As he is the original Ghost Rider, other than Carter Slade, a hero with the same name but different powers, he is the barometer to which we are comparing all the other Ghost Riders and their powers, placing him at the middle of this list. Number 4. Alejandra Jones. When Johnny Blaze gave up the Ghost Rider curse, the spirit of vengeance transferred to Alejandra Jones. Jones had trained her entire life for the opportunity to become a Ghost Rider so that she could punish the sins of humanity. Because of this training, she was able to be an extremely powerful Ghost Rider, although she lost a huge amount of this power when Johnny Blaze reclaimed the Ghost Rider identity. For the time she had it, she was incredibly strong. She had the power within her to be transformed into a kind of bomb who wiped out all of the sins of everyone in Nicaragua. Number 3. Cosmic Ghost Rider. The Ghost Rider of an alternate dimension where Thanos killed everyone on Earth. This rider made a deal with Mephisto so that he could seek out and destroy Thanos. Riding his space motorcycle, the rider teamed up with Galactus to hunt down the Mad Titan. When that failed, he went back in time in an attempt to kill Thanos as a baby. He instead raised the baby Thanos, somehow managing to make him even worse. He traveled the cosmos, punishing evildoers, becoming the first Ghost Rider to take their mission to an intergalactic level. But who was this version of Ghost Rider? What makes him so determined, ruthless, and vengeful? The answer? He's Frank Castle, aka the Punisher. You don't get much more dangerous than the powers of the Ghost Rider paired with the abilities and psychosis of the Punisher. Number 2. Robbie Reyes. Robbie Reyes was a street racer charged with taking care of his little brother Gabe, until one night he was killed in a carjacking gone wrong. Thankfully for him, his car was haunted by the ghost of his sadistic uncle Eli, who revived him and transformed him into Ghost Rider. Robbie now spends his time fighting evil, trying to be a good role model for his brother, and battling the spirit of his uncle in order to try and prevent himself from becoming a force for destruction. He has comparable power levels to other Ghost Riders in most areas, but ability to teleport pushes his stats up considerably, moving him near to the top. Number 1. Red Hulk. On a list that's focused purely on power levels, it's hard to imagine a more powerful combination than the one that occurred in the Secret of Thor storyline. When Mephisto's son, Blackheart, enacted an evil plan to literally bring hell to Earth, the Alejandro Jones Ghost Rider, X-23, Agent Venom, and the Red Hulk were there to take him on. When this wasn't enough, the team decided that the best course of action would be to bond the Spirit of Vengeance and the Venom symbiote to the Red Hulk. This led to a creature with the combined powers of Ghost Rider, Venom, and Red Hulk, taking on and beating Blackheart in perhaps the most over-the-top action display Marvel has seen in years.
Number 10. He gives up fighting the Hulk to let him sick the Illuminati. One of the Hulk's most awesome and powerful moments came in the World War Hulk story, when the Incredible Hulk gathered up his warbound on Sakaar and headed to Earth for some much-desired revenge on the Illuminati. The Illuminati had tricked Hulk, banished him into space, left him stranded on a world where he was forced to become a gladiator and work his way to become king, and then the ship they sent him there on self-destructed and caused the passing of tons of people he cared about. So yes, the Illuminati deserved what was coming to them, but they still tried to put up a fight. When Hulk arrived on Earth, more mad than he has ever been, there were only 2 people who ever had a chance of bringing him down. The first was the incredibly powerful Sentry, and the second was Ghost Rider. When Ghost Rider showed up and started fighting, the Hulk decided to try and squash him like a bug, quote unquote. Only problem was, now that he had knocked out Johnny Blaze, ZARATHOS was allowed to take a bit more control, and he attacked back with so much hellfire the two got to an almost stalemate. The not so bad thing that we're talking about though is when ZARATHOS, who only punishes the guilty, sees that Hulk is truly innocent in this situation. So he betrays the Illuminati and basically allows the Hulk to go ahead with his destruction. Honestly, kind of awesome. I wasn't even upset. Let's find some better examples. But before I do that, do you like anime as well as comics? Well, luckily for you, now we have a full channel completely dedicated to nerdy videos about specifically anime and manga. Go check out Amazing Top 10 Anime. Let's just move on. Number 9. Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch. Yet again, I can't really say I blame Johnny Blaze all too much for this one, but still. When Danny Ketch became a new Ghost Rider after Johnny had imprisoned ZARATHOS in an amulet, Johnny was more than a little suspicious. Johnny Blaze traveled from the West Coast to confront this new Ghost Rider, thinking that ZARATHOS had returned somehow. Blaze hunted down Danny Ketch Ghost Rider and tried to take his life multiple times, while Ghost Rider kept attempting to escape Blaze and bring the villain Blackout, who was dispatching multiple people, to justice. Johnny kept this up until he finally watched Ghost Rider save a child in Central Park. This finally made him become less suspicious of Ghost Rider, and he stopped trying to take him out repeatedly. He instead decided to observe Daniel to make sure that he wasn't ZARATHOS, and he taught Daniel how to fight and protect himself when he wasn't transformed into Ghost Rider. So ultimately he made up for it, but still a little impulsive with the old de-lifing there, Johnny. I want to tone that down. Number 8. Alejandro Jones, Hellfire Exploded a Country. Alright, buckle up, because this one involves Adam. Not me, like the biblical Adam. Adam. In Marvel Comics, Adam has devoted himself to one day eradicating sin from mankind, at any cost, even human souls. To that end, Adam took in orphan children and trained them within a Nicaraguan temple to make them perfect as hosts of the Ghost Rider. Now, with the Fear Itself event and the arrival of the Serpent, Adam decided this was a sign to make his move and offered to free Johnny Blaze from the Ghost Rider. Adam awakened the Seeker and had him pick the new Ghost Rider among those students that he was training. Alejandra Jones was the one chosen and was immediately sent to battle Scotty, who was one of the Serpent's avatars. Now when she came back, Adam demanded that she destroy the sin in the other orphans, which would leave them as husks. She obviously refused, but in return, Adam enslaved her. Now Johnny Blaze, realizing he made a boo-boo, journeyed to Nicaragua to stop them, but Adam turned Alejandra's power into a bomb that went off, taking away the sin from the Nicaraguans, turning them into mindless emotional shells of the individuals they once were. The only ones unaffected by this blast were Johnny and the Seeker. Basically, Alejandra was used to destroy the whole country of Nicaragua. Number 7. Beat Up Angel. So back in the Avengers Volume 1, issue number 214, Johnny Blaze and the Avengers come into conflict. Johnny was hanging out on some rocks in New Mexico, brooding and hating on the world for everyone who abandons him, when all of a sudden, Warren Worthington III comes zooming down the road in a Ferrari with a girl in the passenger seat. Johnny seems to get really jealous and decides to scare the hell out of the couple, causing Warren to crash the car. Johnny then challenges Warren to a race. Now to be fair, Warren gets a good punch in on Johnny, but that just makes the Ghost Rider use his hellfire to burn Warren's soul and put him into a coma. Kind of really overdoing it there, Ghosty. Thor, Tigra, Iron Man, and Captain America head to the area of the incident to take on the Ghost Rider, only for him to give them much more of a fight than they probably expected. Number 6. Killing Starseed. There was a time in the 70s when Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider joined up with the team known as the Legion of Monsters. While not entirely bad, some of the characters here were monsters, and they did indeed give in to their monster tendencies. One such moment would come in Marvel Premiere number 28 in 1975, when a seemingly peaceful alien from a highly advanced race came and plopped a mountain down in California. It caused a bunch of earthquakes, which attracted the Monster Legion, and thanks to Morbius and Werewolf by Night, who gave in to their hunger, they attacked the alien. Now admittedly, the Ghost Rider tried to intervene, but they still, as a group, caused the passing of Starseed, and he even helped them to get back their non-monstrous forms. So it was kind of rude. Number 5. Robbie and Ellie. So this one's a little murky. Robbie Reyes is the current Ghost Rider, and he's great. He's super interesting. His car is hella cool. I just find him to be a smidge bit more evil than his other counterparts, and that's because when Robbie Reyes becomes Ghost Rider, he is not a spirit of vengeance. Robbie is instead possessed by a ghost of a guy named Eli. Now it is revealed in all new Ghost Rider number 8 in 2014 that Eli was not a spirit of vengeance like Johnny Blaze's ZARATHOS, but instead Eli is Robbie's uncle and a satanic serial de-lifer who took the lives of and dismembered at least 37 people in rituals before he was finally taken out by the police in 1999. And he lived in the house that the Reyes brothers, Gabe and Robbie, took to living in. So while Robbie himself isn't necessarily a bad dude, not entirely, the alter ego he now lives with is indeed quite evil, and they constantly have to do mental battle for Robbie to stay in control and not completely give in to Eli's bloodlust. That's a no for me. I don't know. Number 4. Power Obsessed. Ghost Rider Danny Ketch was an interesting one for sure. His spirit of vengeance happened to actually be an ancestor of both him and Johnny Blaze named Noble Kale, who became a spirit of vengeance. In Danny Ketch Ghost Rider number 2, Danny gets the spirit exorcised from him, but instead of doing him good, he went a little bonkers, craving the spirit's power like some kind of addiction. He tried to set himself on fire in Times Square to get the power back. That's how crazy he went. He ended up hanging out in bars, fighting other people just for fun. Yeah, sounds like a blast. But in a turn of events, he was fed doses of the Ghost Rider power, feeding his addiction. Then he began hunting down the other Ghost Riders and Verminous Rex, taking him down and absorbing a whole bunch of Ghost Rider souls and quote-unquote overdosing on the power. The Archangel Zadkiel intervened and saved him, but made Danny one of his knights, hunting down other spirits of vengeance, which led him after Johnny Blaze and saw Danny convince a young man, Lucas Collier, to end his own life. So yeah, he's kind of absolutely horrible. Number 3. Throwing his brother off a bridge. Speaking of Danny Ketch, he is actually the brother of Johnny Blaze. In the beginning of Ghost Ghost Rider Volume 9, Johnny Blaze was the King of Hell. Something that happened in Damnation after Johnny's soul was sent to Hell and he convinced ZARATHOS to help him in a journey to usurp Mephisto's throne. Either way, Johnny Blaze began capturing demons roaming the earth. He tried to recruit the help of his brother, Danny, but KETCH refused and tried to convince Johnny that his position as the King of Hell was corrupting his soul. Blaze didn't seem to like that too much, and so he very unceremoniously stripped KETCH of his spirit of vengeance and threw him off the Manhattan Bridge. Nothing like stealing your brother's power and throwing him off a bridge, am I right? Luckily though for Danny, he got saved from drowning by caretaker Sarah. But this is like the 4th time Johnny has just gone way overboard, or over bridge. I'm just gonna stop. Number 2. Johnny hires Cosmic Ghost Rider. In an alternate future when Thanos was attacking the Earth and going on his mad conquest, Frank Castle was killed and sent to Hell. While down there, he made a deal with Mephisto to gain the Spirit of Vengeance and defeat Thanos. The only problem is, when he came back, he was too late and Thanos had taken the lives of everyone on Earth. So he roamed the Earth totally alone and it drove him insane. Castle made a deal with Galactus to gain the power Cosmic in exchange for the Earth. So now, it's Frank Castle with the Spirit of Vengeance and the power Cosmic. Yes, it is as cool as it sounds, but him going bonkers has made things much more interesting. Unfortunately, he actually goes on to sort of join Thanos in his quest. A lot of stuff happens with the baby and adult Thanos, but basically, in Earth 616, Johnny Blaze is the King of Hell, forces this Cosmic Ghost Rider to attack the Avengers in Avengers Volume 8, number 24, and forces ROBBIE Reyes into a race for Robbie's power, threatening the life of Robbie's brother Gabe. So yeah, this is Johnny being a jerk again, hiring an insanely powerful Cosmic Ghost Rider to de-life the Avengers. Luckily, it doesn't turn out that way. And in at number 1 is Cosmic Ghost Rider. But the question is, why would Johnny Blaze make Cosmic Ghost Rider go after the Avengers? And what's so wrong with that? Well, you see, Cosmic Ghost Rider in his quest against Thanos actually joined up with Thanos, like I said before. And then he went back in time to try and raise a baby Thanos to be a better Mad Titan, as in, like, less death obsessed. This brought him into direct conflict with an alternate Guardians of the Galaxy led by Cable. Now when the fight finally starts, Cosmic Ghost Rider is trying to shield baby Thanos from the violence, so he hands the baby over to Uatu the Watcher and starts going to town on these Guardians. The only problem is Cable keeps using his time-traveling abilities to bring back more and more heroes to take on this Cosmic Ghost Rider. By my counting, the insane Frank Castle Cosmic Ghost Rider took the lives of about 41 different time-displaced superpowered beings. And when he was finally overwhelmed, he had failed completely because he was saved by the baby Thanos, who took out the remaining heroes. And then a Punisher-dressed Thanos from the future shows up calling Frank dad. I don't know, it's insane. Just go read it. Number 10, Adam. That's me. Wow. Say what you want about Spider-Man, but he is a hero through and through, and sometimes he needs to remind others how to be just that. In Spider-Man number 7 in 1990, Spider-Man and Ghost Rider are working together to defeat Hobgoblin. A kid named Adam gets grabbed by Hobgoblin, causing Spider-Man to look for a less direct approach. He barrels straight into Hobgoblin on his motorcycle, hitting Adam as well. Spider-Man gets to Adam before he crashes right into a wall. As Ghost Rider gets his hands on the unconscious Hobgoblin and is about to do his penance stare on him, Spider-Man interrupts him, saving Hobgoblin and giving Ghost Rider an earful about what it means to be a hero, sending him walking away in shame. Number 9, Dr. Druid versus Ghost Rider. I think we can all mostly understand the frustration of heartbreak in some form or fashion, but I don't believe most of us turn into a spirit of vengeance when we find out our significant other has an affair. Okay, maybe some people do, but we mostly all practice control and restraint. When Johnny Blaze found out Roxanne had another lover, he transformed into the Ghost Rider to vent his frustrations. Unfortunately, this caught the attention of Dr. Druid, another disciple of the Ancient One like Doctor Strange. Misunderstanding the situation, Dr. Druid and Ghost Rider engaged each other in combat, revealing Johnny's true nature to some onlookers, which totally enraged Johnny even further. Their fight then traveled to a secluded graveyard where eventually Blaze tore out a gravestone and is about to completely take the life of Dr. Druid, as he claims that the more he becomes the spirit of vengeance, the more he loses compassion and the more he hates, with Druid being the one he hates the most right now. Luckily, he stops himself, but he was straight up gonna crush Dr. Druid's head, and that's not cool. Hey y'all, I know there is at least one of you out there enjoying this video who is not subscribed to us at Top 10 Nerd. You little rascal. Slap that subscribe button so I can keep doing this list. Anyways, in at number 8, a whole prison attacked. There are a lot of morally gray heroes who have absolutely no issue with ending the lives of those who commit crime. But ending one's life is still ending one's life, and it's why for some heroes it's a hard line you just do not cross. In Ghost Rider's case, instead of de-lifing some people, they suffer a much worse fate, having their very souls burned with hellfire, leaving them an empty husk. Now, there is a prison called, non-ironically, Fresh Kills Federal Penitentiary on Staten Island, where the most of the most callous criminals are kept. After being forced into the Ghost Rider by the villain Blackheart, Johnny Blaze races towards Fresh Kills Penitentiary, where he bursts inside and fries the inmates with hellfire to burn away their evil. Although Blackheart says it's not enough. Humans always return to their evil ways no matter what penance they do. So Ghost Rider is convinced by his words and proceeds to de-life the inmates instead. I don't know, what do you nerds think about this one? I still think it's bad. Number 7, Elliot Franklin. Okay, I don't like clowns. Maybe it's a bit of a ridiculous fear. I don't care. They just kind of freak me out. That's alright. But underneath the makeup, the wig, and that damn nose, there is a real human being in there. And they are usually a perfectly lovely human being too. Usually. Elliot Franklin grew up with his father inspiring him to be an incredibly successful clown, so he would want for nothing. But unfortunately things didn't pan out too well, and Elliot had to turn to a life of crime just to get by, joining the circus of crime, and eventually becoming its leader, bringing him into conflict with Johnny Blaze in Ghost Rider Volume 2, Issue 73. What the Ghost Rider didn't know is that Elliot was actually a good guy at heart, and he was even trying to lead the circus into being caught. Unfortunately, no one told Johnny, and he used his hellfire on Elliot, making him relive his personal hell and reducing the clown to a weeping, bumbling, sad man, the guilt of which reverted Ghost Rider back into Johnny when he realized the truth. Number 6, use the penance stare on Doctor Strange. The penance stare takes all the pain and hurt an individual has inflicted on others with their sinful ways and inflicts it all back on that individual, usually leaving them a husk of their former selves. It's kind of terrifying. So it was kind of shocking that during an altercation between Johnny Blaze and Dr. Stephen Strange, the Ghost Rider used the ability on him. It is worth noting a few things here. 1, Ghost Rider believed Strange to be Lucifer, which he wasn't, kind of making this whole thing worse to do, honestly. And secondly, Johnny was almost fully possessed by ZARATHOS when it happened after suffering a massive attack from the Sorcerer Supreme. It was after the stare was performed and Strange was on the edge of life that Blaze realized this was not Lucifer. This is why you always double check someone is in fact a demon before you use one of their most powerful moves. Just a note for future reference. Number 5, brothers. Speaking of penance stares, let's look at the fun time when Johnny Blaze and Danny KETCH both penance stare each other one after another. Danny had been running around stealing the Ghost Rider powers from various Ghost Riders around the world to feed an addiction he had developed for said power. He did take the lives of many of these Ghost Riders. He's not a great person. So when Johnny confronted him, their battle was incredibly brutal and really cool to read, I'm not gonna lie. There was a point where Johnny causes a massive explosion that shakes the Himalayas. Now after this, Johnny went to show his brother the error of his ways by using Danny's penance stare move on him, which is when Johnny learned of all the things KETCH had done. I guess the stare works differently for riders, as Danny just got up and eventually did the exact same thing back to Johnny. Gotta love brotherly love. Number 4, Mojo World. When the Avengers are transported to Mojo World in Uncanny Avengers Annual number 1, Mojo tampers with Blaze's mind, making the Spirit of Vengeance believe it had created a child, which shut down Johnny Blaze's influence. Without Johnny keeping it in check, Ghost Rider will seek vengeance on all life, perceiving life itself to be a sin. Ghost Rider rides to an artificial moon and unleashes his penance stare upon Mojo World, causing the entire population, no matter what they've done, to feel the weight of their sins. Doctor Strange manages to shield the heroes from the penance stare, stating that they must exorcise the Spirit of Vengeance from Blaze, resetting the curse and tempering the spirit. The heroes then attack Ghost Rider. He incapacitates Thor. Satana attempts to exorcise him but is incapacitated before she could do so. Man-Thing attempts to consume Ghost Rider but is destroyed from the inside out, and with no other options left, Scarlet Witch confronts him. As Ghost Rider Rider charges at her, Rogue grapples him, using her powers to pull the curse into herself. Number 3. Snap. Remember that time Green Goblin took Gwen Stacy to the George Washington Bridge? You know, the whole spine snap thing? Well, Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, unknowingly sort of relives that moment. Robbie's classmate and bully, Guerrero, had been taking pills created by cartel leader Dr. Zabo. He created a gang with his friends called the Blue Crew. When Eli, on the pill, attacks Robbie, the Ghost Rider is actually being controlled by the spirit of his uncle, Eli, who trips Guerrero, making him fall off a bridge. Now Robbie takes back control and attempts to save Guerrero using his chains. He pulls Guerrero up with like a powerful yank, and Guerrero flies back up and lands on a metal beam back first, breaking his spine and folding him in half the wrong way. Number 2. Michael Battleino. As a boy, Michael suffered a terrible tragedy. One day, Michael's father was attacked by Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider, who was being controlled by an evil entity at the time. But Battleino Sr. went mad after the attack, and he de-lifed his wife, daughter, and himself, leaving little Michael all alone. Following that tragedy, Michael grew up obsessed with getting revenge on the Ghost Rider for what he did to his family. As an adult, Battleino struck a deal with Mephisto to become a Ghost Rider-like creature known as Vengeance, who had to be defeated, but I don't know, it feels a little hollow, as he was definitely wronged by the Ghost Rider, and I kinda take his side here. I don't know. What do you think? And in at number 1 is ZARATHOS. As commenter Rodney Lindsay made note of pointing out in part 1, the greatest sin Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider, ever made was becoming the Ghost Rider at all, by making a deal with Mephisto. Johnny became bound to ZARATHOS, the spirit of vengeance, after making a deal with the demon Mephisto to spare the life of his surrogate father, Crash Simpson. While this was an act to try and help another, it ultimately was a ruse, as Crash passed on anyways, and now, with the power to control Hellfire and to inflict pain on those he deemed evil, Johnny would go off trying his best to be a hero, but treading a much more darker path, taking lives of sinners and leaving some as empty husks of their former selves, allowing him to make the bad decisions he has made in both parts of this list so far.
Number 10. Carter Slade. The original Ghost Rider was actually referred to as the Phantom Rider. Carter Slade made his first comic book appearance in Ghost Rider 1 way back in 1967. Born in Ohio in the mid-19th century, Carter had aspirations to become a teacher, so he rode from Ohio to Montana. But during this commute, he was shot by guys dressed up as Native Americans. They were a bunch of white dudes, all of them canceled, immediately canceled. Comics are very dated now, so things like this happen and you're like, okay, let's just see where the story goes. A doctor named Flaming Star took Carter after that point and prayed, he chanted, he did everything he could to save his life. Now the secret ingredient was glowing dust from a shooting star that he had from earlier and a special cape that he prepared. He saw the shooting star and knew that somebody important was going to come along. Okay, fair. Great call, Flaming Star. Also, great name. Carter's a pretty cool Ghost Rider. I mean, he carries with him these spirit guns, which are way more impressive than spirit fingers. Number 9. Johnny Blaze. Next on the list we have Johnny Blaze, another OG Ghost Rider. He made his first debut in Marvel Spotlight issue 5 in 1971, so 4 years after Carter Slade. Johnny began his mortal days as a stunt performer. He was great at handling a motorcycle, and Johnny became bound to Zarathos, the spirit of vengeance, after he made a deal with Mephisto to save his father, Crash Simpson's, life. You know, one of those classic scenarios we all get into. So now Johnny Blaze and his Hell Cycle control Hellfire and inflict it upon others that he deems evil with the help of his pendant stare. Nicolas Cage actually killed it as the Ghost Rider. I would not mind an older, crazier Nick Cage in the MCU. They can do it. Number 8. Caleb. Coming from Ghost Rider Trail of Tears issue 1, Caleb and his family were attacked one night and Caleb was killed by George Regan and his gang. Not a pleasant time at all, not a good origin. But then cut to 2 years later down the road, Caleb returns from the dead. Voila, how alarming. Brought back by some form of spirit of vengeance, in Trail of Tears issue 2, Caleb's friend Travis Parham returns and finds Caleb in his new ability to control corpses and travel through dimensions via Hellfire. So things have changed for them. The unlikely duo worked together tracking down other members of Regan's gang for, well, his death. They obviously wanted payback. Caleb is sick. He rides a flaming horse and he's got a chain. He's got bling, bonus points for some devil bling. Number 7, Robbie Reyes. Making his first appearance in all-new Ghost Rider issue 1, Robbie was a young LA mechanic living in Hill Rock Heights. His area was full of gangs, so it wasn't exactly easy for him or his brother Gabriel. Now when Robbie heard of a street race offering the winner $50,000, he just had to compete. All that knowledge in cars, he's like, yo, I'm gonna smoke these fools. All that money too would get him and his brother out of there. So while he was winning, he was in first place during this race, he thought that cops were on his tail, so he booked it and eventually he hit a dead end. He got out to explain and whatnot and say, hey, sorry, I'm doing a race trying to win some money, but then he realized they weren't in fact officers, but it was already too late. They opened fire on Robbie and he unfortunately did not survive. When the attackers went to burn the car, cause evidence, they didn't realize that the car was possessed by a ghost and that ghost possessed Robbie, making him a new Ghost Rider. And of course he had to dish out some sweet payback. This guy is extremely powerful. I mean, in Avengers Volume 8, Issue 25, Robbie uses his chain manifestation and it's so strong that it ripped a Celestial's arm right out of place. How wild is that? Number 6, Danny KETCH. Danny came around in comics nearly 20 years after Johnny Blaze in Ghost Rider Volume 3, Issue 1. He was the son of Barton Blaze and Naomi KETCH. So when he was a teenager, Danny and his sister Barbara hit up a graveyard to get the real Halloween spooky vibe, let's do it, and also to take photos of Harry Houdini's grave. Those two things we always want to do on Halloween. While they were there, two gangs started to fight, one led by Deathwatch and the other with henchmen of Kingpin. So Barbara shrieked in fear as everything went down, naturally so. Deathwatch heard her, and then she was shot in the chest with an arrow, just horrible stuff. Danny grabbed her and took off. While he was catching his breath, figuring out what to do with his sister, he saw this beautiful motorbike with a glowing gas cap and touched it. He then became a Ghost Rider whose mission was to go after those who shed the blood of the innocent, such as his sister. Number 5, Alejandra Jones. Entering Marvel Comics in Ghost Rider Volume 7, Alejandra was born and trained alongside other orphans in a temple with one specific goal in mind. Why, to simply become one of the next Ghost Riders. Easy peasy. So when Johnny Blaze was convinced to give up the Ghost Rider curse, the Seeker was then resurrected to pick the next Ghost Rider. That's when Alejandra got her big break. She was first sent to Ohio to fight Skadi, the Red Skull's daughter. She lost, but still, she jumped right into the action. It was happening for her. She was a very powerful Ghost Rider nonetheless, but her reign came to an end once Johnny realized that he goofed up and he got his status back. After that point, she was upset. She swore revenge on Johnny, of course, because I'd be upset too if I had that power and then all of a sudden it was taken away from me because some other guy learned a lesson. I'd be like, great, I'm glad you're good. Can I still have that? Number 4, Ghost Rider 2099. Kenshiro Cochran made his first appearance in Ghost Rider 2099, issue 1, back in 1994. He was a hacker who rolled with a gang called the Hotwire Martyrs, residing in Transverse City. This gang was so badass, one day they stole encrypted data after hacking a fiber optic trunk line. Just as intense as a heist, for sure, just as badass. So while this was happening, in comes another gang, even more intimidating, called the Artificial Kids. The kids with a Z, of course, to make it cool. All these cool nerdy gangs. They actually killed everyone. It was indeed a massacre. It was very intense. No jokes this time. Kenshiro, street name Zero, decided to transfer the encrypted file to his girlfriend during this, and at the same time hack cyberspace to erase all his headwear implants. So Elon Musk's future is basically confirmed. We can look forward to that, nice. Then he wakes up in this new cyberspace called Ghostworks. Zero was sent back to the real world as their agent of change. The machines created a Cybertech 101 warbot, souped it up with nanotech weaponry, camo abilities, self-repair, and of course a copy of Zero's personality downloaded into his neural net. Very futuristic, different version of Ghost Rider, but still counts. Number 3, Red Hulk Ghost Rider. In the Circle of 4 storyline, Captain America ordered General Ross to go after Venom, and while they went at it, Mephisto's kid, Blackheart, brought part of hell back up to Earth. Lovely. This all takes place in Venom Volume 2, Issue 12. And it's great timing because Red Hulk made an alliance with Venom, X-23, and Ghost Rider. They were all actually killed in this battle. And then in hell, Mephisto did his thing and then offered the heroes another chance, all that devil stuff. And then all they had to do on their part was take down Blackheart. They got the spirit of vengeance and planned to get it to Johnny Blaze so he could become Ghost Rider again. So the Red Hulk at one point had the symbiote and the spirit. How intimidating is that? Number 2, Frank Castle, aka the Rider, coming from the pages of Thanos Volume 2, Issue 13, the Thanos Wins storyline. So the Punisher actually died a pretty random way. A piece of debris from a building fell on him, and then he ended up in hell. Okay, that's one way to go. He was pretty eager for revenge, so he signed up a few contracts with Mephisto, became the last Ghost Rider, and then headed back to the battle. Only the thing was, when he returned, the dust had already settled long before. Thanos was gone, the planet was empty, it was a wasteland. The new Ghost Rider was quite bored for many years. Even Mephisto stopped answering his calls, and then he started losing his mind. Galactus then eventually came along, and Ghost Rider offered the dead planet in exchange for another go at Thanos. So they traveled the cosmos together. How fun, little duo. They found Thanos, Thanos cut Galactus' head off and promised the Ghost Rider more evil than he could punish in 1,000 lifetimes, so Ghost Rider became his servant for a bit in the comics. Shaking hands with all the devils now, eh Frank? Okay. And finally, number 1. Ghost Spider. Coming from Earth 11638, aka the Perfect World, this Peter Parker has a much brighter beginning. Meaning Uncle Ben actually never passed away and gave the whole great responsibility speech. Instead, he just continues to encourage Peter to become a stronger Spider-Man as he gets older. A little pressure, okay, how does that affect this Peter Parker long term though? Where's the butterfly effect difference in this universe with Uncle Ben being alive? Well, Uncle Ben pushes Peter to abduct Spider-Man from other worlds and absorb their life force via this portal that Parker Technologies proudly created. Now eventually our Earth 616 Spider-Man shows up, they fight it out, our Earth 616 Peter Parker comes out on top with the amazing Spider getting his soul sucked into the machine. The perfect Spider-Man spirit was then trapped in the underworld, and then from here it only gets more strange. Literally, Banner at this time was the current Sorcerer Supreme. So he freed that Peter in his astral form, but Peter absorbed all these spirits of the damned while he was down there. So when he came back, he was now Ghost Spider. What a series of horrible but also cool events.